Okay, so I've been doing these for a while now, and I definitely am not crazy about this jog here. So even though it doesn't say to do from the center out, I've started doing that. So I'm gonna have to redo a bunch of them, but I'm happier with how this looks, so that's what I'm gonna be doing. So I'm just gonna show you how I've been doing that. So I've got my two halves here. Alrighty, so I've got my two centers, and I'm putting them kind of line over line. So we've got like a flat part here, so I'm gonna start just like a centimeter or an inch over my center line, and then I'll start going this way. And here I'm making sure that my flat parts stay flat and don't flip over and stuff. Okay, so now I'm imagining the line, the seam line, that's gonna be like 1/4 of an inch, and then also here. So when those two parts branch off, that's where I have to make sure that I start wiggling this over. Alright, that's that side. And now I'm going to do the other side, and I'm going to reinforce this part just because there's a lot of seams getting together there, and I want to make sure that that's good and strong. So I'm going to start around here. It's important that when you go over it again, you really follow that line, because if there's a space there, that's going to show up and be wonky. Okay, so, I mean, it's not perfect, but that's pretty good. So I'm just going to keep going around and doing those and fixing the ones that were off kilter, and then I'll get back to you. Alrighty, so I've sewn my pieces together and ironed them. While I was ironing them, I noticed that this section here was really quite full. So I trimmed them down, kind of did a notch there, one across, and then up again, just to get rid of some of that bulk. So that's all been ironed. Then I laid out all my pieces in a grid, and I've put little tags on each piece so I know where it is in the quilt. So I've got 4 columns and rows A through, I think it was G. So this is D1, next over is going to be D2, D3, D4, and then that's going to go in between rows C and E, obviously, because that's how the alphabet works. So, so right now I'm trimming, let's see, this is D2. So this is a 9.5 inch template ruler fella, and it looks like I could get a 1/4 inch seam around this. So I want to trim evenly and have as much left over as I can, but I also want to get things relatively straight. So I'm making sure that I'm keeping in line with what I've already done. Trying to get as much out of this as I can, but also have it so that as I follow along with my sewing, I'm not going to end up doing anything too wonky. One of the things I noticed when I was laying out all the blocks was that because I've made sure to have the same A pieces and the same B pieces, each block really stood out on its own, as you'd find with most quilts, but I lost the secondary pattern that you get, or that I should have gotten from the pieces. So if you see here, you get these circles, and I kind of lost that because it requires different things lining up on different sides. Like here, for example, it's different A's, and I mean here is very different. So I think in this case, being hyper organized didn't really help me. If I was to do it all again, I would just focus on bringing together A's that were light and dark, and or maybe, you know, a few where it's exact, but then lots where it's not. So just kind of brings more randomness into it if I was to do it all again. Alrighty, so here I have 1 row's worth of pieces all trimmed. So now I'm going to start putting them together. The way that I had ordered them is that the 1 pieces are on the left side. So it'll go D1, D2, D3, D4. And I've noticed in sewing these that I want these points to line up so that the circle pattern is as smooth as possible. And when I was pinning them, I made sure to put the pins such that the papers were straight up and down. All right, so here we go. And I'm lining up my points, and I'm just gonna double check that. Yep, that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm going for a 1/4 inch seam like I've been doing along the whole thing. Want to make sure that this doesn't flip as I'm going. Alrighty, so that's that, and I'm going to keep going, putting on D3, D4, and then I will add those to my stack and keep going through all my other rows, and then I will be ironing these seams open like that, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, bye.